was that you were in love with, it sounds more like her.
Her? That's ridiculous.
Do not bring me into this.
Knock it off!
What? Just never noticed how black your eyes were.
Hello, my friends. Naz Perez here, and I am sitting here with the stars of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Chris Pratt and Karen Gillan. It is so nice to see you guys.
What's up, Naz?
Lovely to see you.
I am so excited to talk to you guys about this movie because, Chris, decades ago,
Yes.
when you were little, you would go to your backyard and you would pretend to be Han Solo and Luke Skywalker after watching Star Wars.
That's right.
And now here you sit as the hero of an epic space adventure trilogy.
Wow.
And Karen, you would audition for school plays.
Yes.
You wouldn't get cast.
Never.
And your first Guardians was the first movie you were on a scale like of this size.
Yeah.
And I just feel like the both of you have grown so much through this franchise. And since this is a culmination of a trilogy, I first wanted to know, what was the last day on set like? And Chris, I heard you gave a speech, and I was hoping that you could maybe share a little bit of it with us.
Oh, gosh. I do, thank you for all of that, and you're right. It's been an amazing ride. And the last day on set of Volume 3, I did give a speech. I'm not like a vindictive person, but anytime you start a story like that.
They're definitely going somewhere
Yeah.
good.
We're just like leaning in now.
I happen to have in my notes file several press clippings saved from the first movie when everyone predicted, you remember this,
Yeah.
that the Guardians of the Galaxy was going to be Marvel's first flop. That was like the consensus critically. It felt like everyone was saying all of these negative things, and at the time we were all pretty insecure and nervous about the prospects. And it stood to reason, I suppose. Objectively, you're saying this is like a title that no one's ever heard of. We don't have any A-list stars. The Guardians of the Galaxy. Wow, are you ready to be part of Marvel's first big failure? Why is anyone going to watch this movie? They don't know these characters, etc. And I remember all of that. And so, of course, none of that came true. Thank God we had this great run. And so at the end, I wanted to read some of those clippings to the cast, the crew, and specifically to James, and just to, I guess, kind of rub it in a little bit, but also just to, say, hey, we overcame a lot to get where we are, and boy, we weren't supposed to be what we are, but we did something special, and just to kind of bask in the moment of that. What this 10 years had been. So that was kind of the last day. It was emotional. There was a lot of tears. It felt like the last day of school. Summer vacation's about to start, but it's like, usually that is something really nice, but on your senior year, it's a little different, when you're like, summer's starting, but also it's like the summer of our life is starting. We're never going to be back together in school. It's a little melancholy.
And I also love that so much that there was just so many people that were like, this movie isn't going to work, and it like completely did. And it's like, there's such a good message in there of like, do not be disheartened by people's, comments or opinions or beliefs about something, because that's not what's going to dictate it.
Right.
Yeah, and you both have truly just come so far. I love that you brought that up because James Gunn went through a lot of different people trying to find Star-Lord.
Yeah.
And he said that when you walked in, he knew it was you right away.
Oh, wow.
Back then, Chris, did you think it was risky? Were you like, I'm going to be acting with a raccoon in a tree? Like, what were you thinking then? What are you thinking now? And what's your overall reflection on how Star-Lord has changed you?
Oh, well, listen, I'm first and foremost incredibly grateful. So grateful. Really, it has changed my entire life. The trajectory of my career, the trajectory of my life in all aspects, personal, professional, everything in between. It changed the way I approached my business as an actor, and it's meant so much. It was like being drafted onto a winning NFL team or something, like if you've dreamed your whole life of growing up to be a football player, and then on draft day they pick you. It's like, wow. It felt like that. And I remember reading lists. And I don't want to make this whole interview about what people expected of us and defying expectations. But I remember there was one article in particular that when I was circling the idea of auditioning for the role, it was like the 25 actors we could see playing Star-Lord, and I wasn't on. None of them were me, and I was like, man, maybe it's the 26th guy. Maybe it's the 26th guy that's gonna get it. Maybe it's me. And so you just go in and you do your best, and I did, and thank God that James saw something in me and wanted to make me the character. And Pretty cool.
It's a high five, Karen.
High five.
I wanted to ask you the same about Nebula because when we met Nebula, she was such a smaller role and she's emerged to this like prominent position in the MCU. What's your overall reflection of her trajectory and how she's changed you?
I signed up to this role thinking it was 8 days of filming, and then I thought that the character died. And now here I am, 9 years, 10 years later, and I'm an official Guardian. Yeah!
You made the team! We got drafted!
I got drafted! I'm very excited about that.
It's so inspiring to hear you guys talk about it because I feel like you've had an emotional journey getting here, but this movie also feels like it's going to be really emotional based off your reactions to the script. Chris, you read the script, you called it a masterpiece. Karen, you read it with Palm, you started crying. We see Star-Lord crying in the trailer. How much our audience is going to be crying when they see this movie?
What you know of the Guardians of the Galaxy films, the tone of it, it's a similar tone. It's fun, it's irreverent, it's funny, there's great music, it's visually stunning, the story's really great, and it's emotional. And that's been really constant through the trilogy. I think this film has really emerged as perhaps the most emotional of the three just because of the context. We're wrapping up the story, and naturally there's going to be emotion with that. So I'm excited about that, and I'm really excited that over the course of the maybe 9-10 years that it's taken to tell these three stories to audiences, fans have grown up by 9 years. And for many of us, that doesn't mean much, but to a kid who was 12 or 13 when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, they're now in their 20s.
Yeah.
And they'll be watching this and they will have matured emotionally along with these films. So that gets me the most excited, thinking about a 13 to 15-year-old kid from when this movie came out, watching it now, and they're out of high school, maybe they're out of college, they're, adults now, and we made it for them. We made it for the kid and all of us, but that particular audience, I'm very excited for them to see this.
To get emotional about it. Karen, what do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely emotional. So me and Palm, who plays Mantis, read it together in a room. We were like, we cannot do this alone. I think, I'm not sure where in the process it was that we actually read the script, but there was a lot of emotions surrounding the making of the film and our director and everything. But we read it and just both were crying together. But there was also tears of laughter too.
Oh yeah.
These movies are so funny, but you're right, they are so emotional. Even hearing "Since You've Been Gone" by Rainbow in the trailer got me going. We all know music is such a big part of these movies.
Yes.
Now that Peter has an iPod, what songs did you lean on?
Yeah, well, the Zune. He's got the Zune.
Oh, the Zune,
right?
that's right.
It's one step above iPod technologically.
Yes. My bad.
I mean, what's beautiful about that Zune is it opens us up to an era of music that is beyond just the 70s and what would have been hit music for Peter's mother. I mean, Peter Quill's mom gave him Volume 1 and Volume 2. And those are songs that she really loved. Well, this is a woman who would have died in 1989. So up until 1989, that's where her musical taste lied. And so there's a lot of great stuff that came out after that.
Yeah.
And because of the story with Yondu finding the Zune in this junker shop, there's really great, and we've opened it up and allowed for some iconic songs to come in. I don't think I want to give any spoilers, but I'll tell you this.
Okay.
I think it's the best soundtrack that we've had on all of the movies. It's really
definitely.
good. It's moving. And James has done a great job because, he, of course, curates these playlists of finding those sleeper hits. Not like the song that you're like, well, of course, that's a great hit song, but kind of bringing something up, kind of like he did with each of us, finding this little diamond in the rough and bringing it up and polishing it and letting it be on display. He does a great job with that, and all of the songs in this particular Volume 3 have that same feel.
Oh, there's one song that's the opening of the movie. I'm not going to say what it is, but it is epic.
Yeah.
That's when I talked to James, he said the same thing. He said we're going to hear some 90s, and I personally was like, I hope Torn by Natalie Imbruglia's in it, but after what you just said, it's probably not. Anyways,
I'm a lot of things.
This is all right, we can't afford to use that, unfortunately. But going back to the trailer, one of my favorite scenes in the trailer is when Nebula is carrying Peter.
Yeah.
Tell me about filming that scene, and who is she to Peter now? Because they seem closer in this movie.
Look at these guns.
Wow, did you get arrested for coming in with them?
Yeah, welcome to the gun show. That was not actually Chris that I was carrying. That was a doll of Chris.
Yeah,
I don't want to know where that
the
ended
most
up.
incredibly. Who's got that in their office and why? They made an incredibly lifelike, full-scale doll that she could carry specifically for that scene. And in the scene, well, can we say what it is? Let's just say it doesn't look like I'm awake.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Am I dead? Am I asleep? Who knows?
Who knows?
But she's carrying this essentially lifeless body.
Yeah.
And carrying dead weight is a lot, especially when
Yeah.
dead weight is like 235 pounds. So she's not going to be carrying me for this long, slow walking talk. So they made this foam version of me that was probably still pretty heavy.
It was fairly heavy.
25, 30 pounds?
Yeah, I had to put it down in between takes.
The thing was down to literally the moles, the hair, the
They had
pores.
little hairs coming out of his face.
It was
so lifelike.
So lifelike that literally, like the first time I walked in and saw it lying there, because it has this dead kind of vibe.
Yeah, mouth open, dead.
I had a bit of a
Yeah, was that weird?
visceral reaction as if I was standing over myself. It was the strangest thing to see. An incredibly lifelike but dead version of yourself is something that I hope no one here ever sees, because
don't think
it
they
would
will.
mean that you're dead and you're floating over your body and you're now in limbo. Have you ever seen Ghost? That's based on a true story. But like, it's a strange thing to be like, whoa, dude. I kind of had this
shouldn't see this.
vertigo moment where I'm like, this is what I'm,
Yeah.
like, will I one day be looking down at my own body?
That's
It was
gnarly.
strange.
That's gnarly.
Strange.
I can't wait to see Nebula and Peter's dynamic, because it does feel like they have just sort of like a closer relationship this go around. But I wanted to ask you about the woman in the middle of this dynamic, and that is Gamora.
Yes.
Gamora and Peter's relationship, to me, has always been my favorite in the MCU. That will they or won't they energy is
Yes.
just, it's so chef's kiss. But the Gamora that Peter knew died in
Right.
Infinity War, and the one that he's interacting with now is a past version of her that we met in Endgame. So how
Right.
does Peter go about wooing the love of his life when she doesn't know who he is?
Well, listen, you're just right in that there is that dynamic. It's a bit of a trope of the will they, won't they, Sam and Diane. So much so that Peter Quill remarks about it in Volume 2. When is this going to be this thing? This will they, won't they? She doesn't know what he's talking about. And so yes, now she's no longer there. And the way that James addressed this in writing the story and directing the film is so elegant. It's so beautiful. It's so forward-thinking. It's really unlike anything I've ever seen.
Wow.
In that type of dynamic. To find new territory to discover in what is a pretty prototypical romantic archetype is really hard to do. But because of the events of Infinity War with this blip and now a person not knowing who a person is, that's a whole new in to this type of relationship. You may have seen things like that in like a 50 First Dates or something, like, I don't know who you are, but we fall in love. This is played very real.
Wow.
And it's emotional, and it's really powerful, and it's really beautiful, and it's empowering, and it's loving, and oh, I can't wait for people to see it.
Man, they need to start selling tissues at concession, man.
Yeah.
Someone's got to get on that. Karen, I love Nebula's relationship with Gamora as well. Thank you for sharing all that. There was a line that you said that I think is so good. You said playing Nebula is like playing the scapegoated sibling in a toxic family dynamic. What a line.
Tense.
But
Why am I so tense?
it's so good. But it feels like things have kind of
You hear
changed.
it back to yourself. And it's like, Jesus.
I think it's very eloquent. I feel like things have changed now, though. Like, it kind of feels like before it was Gamora trying to get through to Nebula. Now it kind of feels like Nebula is trying to get through to Gamora. How
Yeah.
fun was that role reversal for you with Zoe this time around?
I mean, it's really fun because, you know, Nebula started off as this very, like, sadistic, tortured, angry person, and gradually she's just become this completely new being that can, like, let in love and accept love and start to give love, too. And I think Gamora has definitely been set back a bit, and Nebula can definitely recognize that in her because she's seen it in herself. And so I think it's about trying to almost nurture Gamora maybe back to where, you know, she knows that this is so confusing with time travel.
Yeah.
But yeah, where she would be in the future version. There we
Right,
go.
because so many of the relationships that Gamora experienced and the growth that she had in her life came from the events of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And this is all stuff that happens after this Gamora that we meet. So the diabolical, kind of insane psychopath Gamora is a Gamora we're not used to seeing, because she quickly sheds all of that for the first 2 volumes. But like, for example, your wonderful fight sequence and sister dynamic in Volume 2, beautiful.
So
we love
good.
it. These 2 tortured siblings who are given an opportunity to literally process all of this damage and come out the other side of it healed and better for it. Well, that's out the window now. And so here you are, you've healed, but she hasn't. And same with Peter Quill and her. We have all these memories, these wonderful things. We've both grown so much. Well, I have, but she hasn't. So how do how do you bring someone back from that? And can you?
Yeah, I love that you mentioned the sparring in Volume 2 because I love seeing you both go at it. And we actually get to see Nebula go at it with Adam Warlock in the trailer. Yeah. What was it like sparring with Will Poulter for this movie?
He is a big presence, you know, so it was kind of fun to fight someone like that. It was also kind of fun that he just didn't even, he didn't go easy on her because she's a girl or anything. He just goes at it, and Nebula is like definitely like having to deal with a lot in that situation. But I think she fights back. You'll have to see. It's a really interesting fight sequence.
I'm excited to see it. I feel like the action in Guardians to me is just the most fun. I especially love seeing Dave Bautista fight because he was a former wrestler, and I love Drax. And he's kind of been, you know, outspoken about how this is a bittersweet end for him and how he's ready to move on to other projects. How much has he meant to the both of you? And how special is Drax to you?
Oh man, I mean, this has truly been an extraordinary, God, it's trite to say because you hear it like, oh, what a journey it's been, you know, all these films. But it's true. It's the destination is what you see in the cinema. What you're going to see when you buy tickets now and when you go see it in the cinema May 5th, that's the destination. That's where we were all headed. Parking your ass in a theater and being swept away for an hour and a half or 2 hours on an extraordinary journey. But getting to that destination, that's where all of the nuanced, kind of private, emotional, and wonderful personal human growth happens in our business.
Yeah.
And so getting to know Dave, getting to know Karen and Palm and Zoe and all of our family members and our kids and our wives, like that whole vibe is not something that you go see when you're sitting down watching the theater. So it's sad that you won't see more. This is the last time you'll have an opportunity to see us in the theaters, and we're a bit like circus performers, you know? It's like we gotta pack up the circus and go. And at the end of that, it's really hard because you sit down for several hours every day over the course of many years getting to know people because of the circumstance of filmmaking puts you all together. But then that circumstance dissolves and you're left to like, am I not going to see this person for 6 months? Am I not going to see Karen until we're off promoting a movie? And then when? When we're done with that, then what? It's like, you have to try to stay in touch, but it is what it is. That's kind of the vibe. So what does Dave mean to me, man? I mean, he's fantastic. I just got him a dog.
You just got him a dog?
You got him a dog?
Yeah, I helped him adopt a dog. I have a friend, or Millie, Millie Bobby Brown we did this film, The Electric State, and she's big into finding dogs she fosters them and finds people to be their permanent homes. And I was like, Dave, this dog looks like you should get this dog. And now it's Tallulah, his new dog.
Wait, he has so many dogs. I feel like he just adopted a dog when we were doing Volume 3.
Yeah.
He found this little puppy and took the puppy in. He must have like a house full of dogs.
Yeah.
Not all heroes wear capes. We love Dave.
I mean, truly, he like that shows like who he is. He just takes in dogs. He loves them so intensely, like they're his children. It's very sweet.
Wait, just hearing you say everything that the both of you just said, it's like you can tell that all of you are just such a family. And what's so special about the Guardians is that the same people have been working on these movies, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera too. And I feel like at the core of that is director James Gunn.
Oh, yeah.
What has James meant to you throughout this journey? Karen, we'll start with you.
Oh, God. Right, this is right. Don't cry. I mean, I'm so grateful to him. He gave me a career in films in America. He is the most wonderful director, the most caring person. He also is another one that like takes in a lot of people into his life. I feel like everyone is kind of like got some interesting story, or maybe there's a little bit lost in some way, and he kind of has formed this whole family around him. And he's truly just one of the most caring people I've ever come across in my life. And so that's lovely to be around as a human, but then on set, you just feel incredibly taken care of as an actor, and you feel like he creates this comfortable, safe space where you can make an idiot of yourself and try stuff, and he's gonna probably laugh at you and make fun of you, but that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
He's the best.
He's one of my dearest friends. I talk to him all the time. I owe my career to him, and being Peter Quill in the Guardians of the Galaxy changed everything. And like I said, there was a list of 25 guys that Hollywood wanted to be Peter Quill, and I wasn't one of them. And so he found me and took a chance on me, and you know, I trusted him, and I learned a lot through the process. I didn't know how to play this character, and he taught me how to do it. And he did a great job. He knows how to work with actors and knew how to work with me, and works with everyone differently. He's so prepared. He knows exactly what he wants. He's not afraid to tell me no, which is a big a big deal. Like sometimes I get a little overpowering with my ideas and my thoughts, and I'm like, it should be this way, and that's the way I see it in my brain, and I think that should be that way. But it's not my show, it's his show. And then in the end, I go, wow, he was right. It should be that way, you know. So it's nice to, and periodically, also he's not so proud that if an idea comes up that is good, that he'll say no, not that idea, because it's not mine. You know, he's a real collaborator. And whatever's the best thing goes on screen. And for the most part, he knows exactly what that is going to be.
Wow. Do you think this is the last time you'll be playing a superhero for James Gunn?
Oh, I don't know. It's certainly the last time I'll be playing Peter Quill for James Gunn. He's not going to do any more Guardians of the Galaxy films, and it's a trilogy. But listen, I love him, and I loved working with him, so I'm open to anything.
I love that. If Peter were to retire from the Guardians, do you think Nebula would take over as leader, and what type of leader would she be?
As a leader of the Guardians?
Yes.
I could actually see her weirdly being a leader. I think that she would be a little bit more stern than you. I think she would, you know,
I love her. You just go,
just like the authority that I naturally have. No, it's no. I think that would be really interesting, actually. She may or may not take up some sort of leadership position, not necessarily of the Guardians, but of something in the movie. You have to wait and see.
Ooh, cannot wait. Well, my friends, with a tease like that, we got to end there. Thank you guys so much for your time, for your art, for your intentionality, just for everything you've put into all three of these
Naz.
movies,
Thank you.
and for entertaining us. You're welcome.